Hey guys, I wanted to do something cozy for the nighttime. Also, I just watched this YouTube video and it's this guy and he was basically saying like just create content, whatever, like you don't really have to, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just create content on the daily, and creating is better than consuming. And last year when I was going from 2023 to 2024, I vividly said so many times to myself that I need to create so much more content than I consume, because I consume a lot of content, and that is so much more true now than it was back in 23 turning into 24, because I have literal brain rot. So anyways, here I am, just creating content today. I have had this idea back in Halloween or October of last year, 2024, where I was gonna do like makeup that was the girl. What is that one book? The striped, the six striped girl. You know what I'm talking about. Bad Case of Stripes. Basically, I was gonna do like makeup like the girl from A Bad Case of Stripes, because my hair is short and it's got kind of that same literal style. And so I thought, like, this is some simple easy makeup that I can do, and it's Halloween and it's on theme, and I was gonna do a video of me doing that. But before that video, I was gonna do a video of me just reading the book. I just thought that was a cutesy idea. So anyways, never read the book, period. I never read that book when I was young or anything. But in October of 24, didn't read the book, didn't do the makeup. So maybe I'll do it this October for like this year, we'll see. But I really like the idea of just reading the book. Just reading a book like on video, because I have so much brain rot. I literally cannot read. Like, I actually think a third grader is probably smarter than me. I'm not kidding with you. So anyways, let me explain my setup to you. I don't want you to see everything. I just want you to see the book. So today we're reading Captain Underpants and the tyrannical, I'm also reading this backwards, and the tyrannical retaliation of the Turbo Toilet 2000. Okay, so that's the book we're reading. This I just bought, link in bio. This is water. It's just water. No free promo for the cup. This is tea. Cozy chamomile tea. That was my first time trying that. It was delicious. That is so good. Yummy. And then I have this candle. I'm trying to make it cozy. I'm trying to set a mood here. This is, you can't read it, but it's Mary something. Should I? Mary Cookie. I'll leave that flickering over here for you guys. Anyways, this book is this is the 11th epic novel by Dav Pilkey. Also, this is the only kids book that I have. I want to read a kids book. I want it to be easy. And I know you're looking at the little spine here and you're thinking I got this from the library. I did and I didn't. Let's read. Hi, everybody. We're back. And as usual, we're in big trouble again. I'll do voices for you guys. This is a boy, and this is a girl. So I'm gonna do like a stereotypical boy and girl. Hey everybody, we're back, and so as usual, we're in big trouble again. This comic will help you get up to speed on our story so far. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about Captain Underpants. Once there was two super awesome kids named George and Harold. We rock the house, son. Me too. But they had a mean principal named Mr. Krupp. Blah, blibbity, blah, 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 blah. Mr. Krupp tried to blackmail. Did they write mail like mail? Oh god, this is brain rot. God damn it. I'm trying to like be better. This is what I'm freaking reading. Mr. Krupp tried to blackmail George and Harold. This is George? Is this a boy or a girl? I don't know. I always thought this was a girl, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't read Captain Underpants. So George and Harold hypnotize him. I don't think so. Oh my god. Forgot about that guy. And whenever anybody pours water on Captain Underpants' head, he turns back into mean old Mr. Crump. Blah, blah, blah. One time, the talking toilets actually yum, yum, eat 'em up. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. Their leader was the Turbo Toilet 2000. I'm reading this like a literal child, actually. George and Harold used a weird... What if I read it like this? Would you guys hate me? I don't know why I don't just literally flip this. Okay, I feel like this looks terrible. Did it look terrible anyways? Chat, please. Let me know. Okay. Their leader was the Turbo Toilet 2000. George and Harold used a weird machine to make a good robot called the Robo Plunger. The Robo Plunger beat up the Turbo Toilet 2000 and flew him to Uranus. Got him. There they have stayed for many months. This other time, Wedgie Woman made two robots. One of them kicked a kickball into outer space. Could these two vents be connected? My guess is yes. Our hearts are about to find out. Our heroes are about to find out. Because at this very moment, they are traveling backwards into time to discover the terrible truth. Oh no! Here we go again! Chapter 1. George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. Let's think about this. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. This is George. I think they're both boys. This is George. This is Harold. George, Harold, George, Harold, George, George, Harold, Harold, George, George, hair, old. If you're confused by what's going on, here, don't worry. They're confused too. You see, George and Harold and Captain Underpants had just undergone an epic adventure that started out in the dinosaur age and ended at their school, 40 years in the future. That's actually nothing. Now, thanks to Melvin Sneedley, the tattletale genius, and his glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suit, they were all hurtling backwards in time, back a long, long, long time ago to that dull, old-fashioned age known as the present. Oh, I almost forgot. Traveling with them were 3 purple and orange speckled eggs laid by their pet pterodactyl, I know that word, Crackers, who, along with their other pet, Sulu, the bionic hamster, had just saved the planet and created all life as we know it, simultaneously. See, that wasn't confusing at all, was it? Melvin's glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suit whizzed through time in a dazzling array of electrified eye candy as 40 years sped by in reverse. Guys, was that confusing? If it was, pick up your brain. Because we're going to need it to keep reading. Then everything stopped suddenly and George and Harold looked around. Hey, said Harold. We're still here at school. I don't know why I'm making him yell. Correct, said Melvin. Correct. I'm going to try to make Melvin like a nerd. Correct. Only it's now 40 years and 1 day earlier. Hey, look, said George, pointing at the school. There's Tippy and his robo-pants. Not again, Harold moaned. Relax, said Melvin, as a flash of green light shot out of the library window. You're looking at something that happened yesterday, remember? Oh, yeah, said Harold. We were up there in the library. We just disappeared in the purple potty. Right, said George. And Tippy is just about to come after us. He should be leaving any second now. I don't know who said that. Context clues, anybody? I'm gonna go with George. No, Harold. I'm making George a nerd because he's got a suit. He's got a tie. Suddenly, a cracking blue light shot out of the robo-pants, and before you could say convoluted potline, please, convoluted potline, it disappeared into the noontime haze. Okay, said Melvin. I think I've read the people wrong. Yeah, I read them wrong. Okay, said Melvin. Here you are, home again, jiggity jig. Take your precious eggs and go around your business. Chat, can a woman read? I don't think so. Can women read? Suddenly, a cracking blue light shot out of the robo-pants, and before you could say convoluted plotline, it disappeared into the noontime haze. Okay, said Melvin. Here you are, home again, jiggity jig. Take your precious egg and go about your business. Wait a second, said George. Aren't the cops still after us? Yeah, said Harold. Harold, no. Guys, I can't read. George is the nerd. George is the noob. Wait a second. Aren't the cops still after us? Yeah. Don't they still think we stole that money from the bank? Not anymore, said Melvin, proudly patting himself in the back with one of his mechanical tentacles. Luckily, I have this glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suit in my garage. I used it to go back in time and hack into the bank's computer. What for? Asked Harold. No big deal, said Melvin. I alter their surveillance images a little bit. Just don't grow a mustache or a beard anytime soon, and you guys will be fine. Wait. Why am I just now realizing there's 3 characters? George, Harold, and Melvin. God damn it. No wonder. Melvin's the nerd. Melvin is the nerd, guys. Melvin is the nerd. God damn it. We're more screwed than I thought. And I didn't put anything in my hair, so this is just what it looks like off straight, off straight, off straight, off straight, off straight. This is what I'm talking about. This is literal brain rot. Dandruff shampoo. God damn it. Okay. Melvin. Harold. George. God damn it. And Melvin is a nerd. I know that for a fact. Look at him. Okay. So, hey, said Harold. Harold. Hey! Okay, Harold is gonna be like hyper as fuck. Sorry, no cursing. Harold is gonna be like super duper hype. I need to give them a personality so I can like stick with it. Okay, Harold hype. Harold hype. Harold hype. George. 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 Right. Wait, George is the left with the tie and the flat top. George. 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 Okay, George is he's average. Harold is hyper. Melvin is nerd. Hey, said Harold. We're still here at school. Correct, said Melvin. Only now it's 4 years and 1 day earlier. That sounds like Melvin. Only now it's 4 years earlier? It's 40 years and 1 day earlier? Hey, look, said George, pointing at the school. There's Tippy and Robopants. Not again? Not again? Not again? Relax, said Melvin as a flash of green light shot out of the library window. You're looking at something that happened yesterday, remember? Oh, yeah, said Harold. We were up there in the library. We just disappeared in the purple potty. Guys, I keep getting them messed up. This guy looks like a Harold to me. Wait, no. This guy looks like a Harold to me. And this guy looks like a George. Hair. Oh, yeah, said Harold. We were up there in the library. We just disappeared in the purple potty. Right, said George. And Tippy is just about to come after us. He should be leaving any second now. Suddenly, a cracking blue light shot out, and the Robopants shot out of the Robopants, and before you could say convoluted plotline, it disappeared into a noontime haze. Okay, said Melvin. Here you are, home again. Home again. Jiggity jig. Take your precious eggs and go about your business. Wait a second, said Harold. Aren't the cops still after us? Yeah, said Harold. Don't they still think we stole that money from the bank? Not anymore, said Melvin proudly, patting himself on the back with one of his mechanical tentacles. Luckily, I had this glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suit in my garage. I used it to get back into time and hack into the bank's computer. What for? Asked Harold. No big deal, said Melvin. I altered their surveillance images a little bit. Just don't grow a mustache or a beard anytime soon, and you guys will be fine. You won't believe this, but I actually didn't understand this whole thing last time we read it. Cooked, chat. Wow! Look at this that just fell. Well, I'll show you at the chapter 2 pause. Wow, said Harold. Melvin, Sneedly rescued us. I can't believe. Wow, said Harold. Melvin Sneedly rescued us. I can't believe it. Yeah, I don't get it, Melvin, said George suspiciously. You always hated us. How come you're being so nice to us all of a sudden? Oh, yeah, I mixed up Harold and Melvin's voice. Wow! What should be like his voice? Harold, I can't think of a. Oh, I have my reasons, said Melvin. I have my reasons. And Melvin did indeed have reasons. One whole year's worth of reasons. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Anyways, this is what fell off my thing just now. You can't see it. Sorry. I tried to share something with you. I didn't even take that picture. But it is beautiful. Okay. Don't you hate it when a kickball hits Uranus? Somewhere in the deepest, darkest reaches of our solar system, a red rubber kickball was zooming through space. None of Earth's top scientists could explain where it had come from or why it was racing towards Uranus. But it had been on its present course for the past 5.5 books, and nothing could stop it. Kabloink. The kickball sped closer and closer to a small cluster of porcelain monstrosities that lay together in a heap on the surface of the icy, ridiculously named planet. Behind them, guarding them all with a keen, observant eye, was a robotic sentinel. Was a robotic sentinel known as the Incredible Robo-Plunger. Faster and faster the kickball whizzed towards them until finally, kabloink! The force of the red rubber ball knocked the head right off of the Incredible Robo-Plunger. The decapitated defender juddered forward slightly as the photoatomic sound it out. Some gobulating. Girl, what the heck is this word? As photoatomic Oh, you guys can't see it. No wonder it looks odd. Come on, guys. Okay. Read this word with me, bruh. Photoatomic some gobulating Yectofantripulotonic zenatipomazatic juice drizzled out from its mangled neck hole and oozed slowly downward into the gaping mouth of the Turbo Toilet 2000. What the hell? Let's read that line again. The decapitated defender jutted forward slightly as the photoatomic transomgobulating plutonic zenzimbomatic juice drizzled out from its mangled neck hole and oozed slowly downward into the gaping mouth of the Turbo Toilet 2000. This is the book you guys chose, by the way. Girl, who chose this book? This was unfortunate because as any robotics engineer will tell you, it is very important to keep photoatomic transubgobulating yectofantripulotonic zenziptomistic juice as far away from evil robots as possible. You certainly do not want to get even a drop of it in their mouth, for it will only make them come to life and give them an unquenchable appetite for destruction, which sadly is exactly what happened that bleak night on the terribly grassy surface of Uranus. The Turbo Toilet 2000's bulbous, bloodshot eyes smacked open and wobbled around widely. His massive left arm creaked up and rubbed the painful, throbbing side of his porcelain lid. "Where the heck am I?" he said, looking around at his fallen allies. Clumsily, he squeaked to his feet, dusted himself off, and beheaded the headless mess that once was the incredible Robo-Plunger. Oh, beheld. Beheaded the headless? Like, how the fuck does that happen? How does that happen? Sorry. Clumsily, he squeaked to his feet, dusted himself off, and beheld the headless mess that once was the incredible Robo-Plunger. Then it all came back to him. The battle, the defeat, the humiliation. It wasn't long before the Turbo Toilet 2000 had pieced together every single event that had brought him and his army of talking toilets to this frozen, frustrating fate. "I must retaliate," he said, clenching his razor-sharp porcelain teeth together tightly. "I must avenge my fallen allies." Luckily for him, he was a robot, which meant that he knew a thing or two about mechanical engineering. It didn't take long for him to disassemble the Robo-Plunger, rearrange the pieces, and create a flying rocket scooter from the recycled parts of his arch enemy. I'm going to say arch nemesis. The only thing left to do was to travel the long journey from Uranus to Earth. It was a voyage that would take him nearly 3 whole pages to complete, and when he arrived, he would wage a war against the good people of Earth, a war that would threaten the very foundation of our planet. But before I can tell you that story, I gotta tell you this story. My hair is making me stop a lot. Okay, back to our Chapter 3. Melvin's Moment of Mirth. What a word. Remember back in Chapter 1 where we found out that Melvin had a whole year's worth of reasons why he needed to bring George and Harold and Captain Underpants back to the present? Well, in case you're wondering what happened during that year, here's what happened during that year. Immediately after our heroes disappeared on their prehistoric journey, the cops started looking for George, Harold, and Mr. Crump. Wanted posters appeared in the post office across America, but since George and Harold and Mr. Crump had traveled back in time to the Cretaceous period, they were nowhere to be found. Melvin is our nerd, by the way. Everyone assumed that George, Harold, and Mr. Crump had robbed a bank and were hiding out in Canada or Mexico somewhere, and it wasn't too long before the cops gave up and stopped looking for them. This was sad news for most of the residents of Picoa, Ohio, but not for Melvin Sneedley. Melvin was finally happy for the first time in years. No George and no Harold meant no pranks, no comics, and best of all, no interruptions. Melvin could finally go about conducting his scientific experiments, creating wild new inventions, and indulging his beautiful mind in peace. But all that happiness only lasted for about 2 weeks because, as we mentioned earlier, you know who shows up. Pop quiz, who shows up? I think it's... Oh! Dummy alert. Do you know who I was going to say? Mr. Poopy Pants, or what's his name? Robo Pants. Tippy and Robo Pants. Okay. Chapter 4. He Who Must Not Be Flushed. The Turbo Toilet 2000 entered Earth's atmosphere in a blazing fireball from the sky. His rocket scooter roared over the rooftops of the small Ohio town as the porcelain predator bellowed. His rocket scooter roared over the rooftops of the small Ohio town as the porcelain predator bellowed out an eardrum-crushing taunt. "Here's Johnny!" Name the movie. Then came the destruction. Buildings collapsed. City buses were thrown through the skyscraper windows. Fires raged out of control. The chaos and devastation crippled the town, sent residents running for their lives, and annoyed the heck out of one little boy. Pop quiz, who do you think it is? Melvin. Melvin Sneebly had been trying to get some work done in his bedroom laboratory when the attack began. All he needed was 1 or 2 more hours of uninterrupted silence to complete his experiment, but the terrible ruckus outside was really getting on his nerves. Melvin marched over his bedroom window, poked his head out, and shouted, I lost his voice. Hey! I'm trying to work here! You idiot! Be quiet! As you can probably imagine, the Turbo Toilet 2000 didn't take too kindly to being dressed down in such a manner. He swiveled his massive bowl around quickly and glared at Melvin with raging, hard-boiled eyeballs. Uh-oh, said Melvin gulped. Suddenly, the Turbo Toilet 2000 leaped at Melvin. The tiny tattletale screamed as the malevolent miscreant. The tiny tattletale screamed as the malevolent miscreant chased him down the street, across the city, and into the empty, darkened hallways of Jerome Horowitz Elementary School. The tiny tattletale. Melvin ran upstairs and hid under Mr. Crump's desk while the Turbo Toilet 2000 searched through the classroom for him. Melvin was in deep trouble. Finally, he actually needed Captain Underpants' help, but the waistband warrior was nowhere to be found. Rats, said Melvin. If only I could. Ouch! Melvin's knee was pressing down to something sharp. Carefully, Melvin reached down and pulled the pointy little object off his knee. It was a toenail. Not just any toenail either. It was one of Mr. Crump's thick, greasy, yellow toenails, and that he had clipped off that day before he had been whisked away on his journey back through time. Ew, what a slob, said Melvin as he flicked the toenail away. Then Melvin thought of something. He knew that Mr. Crump was also Captain Underpants. That meant that Mr. Crump's DNA must have some kind of superpowered element in its makeup. If Melvin could find a way to extract the superpowered element from Mr. Crump's DNA, Melvin could theoretically transfer those superpowers to himself. Where's the toenail? Cried Melvin. Big Melvin returns. I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving this book. And we're probably going to finish it. It was a rough start, but tea's over and done with. A little bit of water for the throat. The Turbo Toilet 2000 noisily smashed his way from classroom to classroom, getting closer to Mr. Crump's office with each thudding foot stomp. Melvin desperately searched the mangy orange carpet for Mr. Crump's stinky toenail, digging his fingers deep into the matted shag as the sounds of carnage? Excuse me. As the sounds of carnage got louder and louder. Carnage? Where's that toenail? Melvin screamed. Carnage? I thought it was like cranage. I wish it said cranage. I don't know. Finally, Mr. Crump's office door burst open. Aha! Shouted the Turbo Toy 2000. I've got you now, you annoying little brat. He turned British somehow. He reached down, grabbed Melvin by the foot, and pulled him towards him, his chomping razor-sharp teeth. No! Screamed Melvin. I'm too gifted to die. I'm too talented. Ouch! Once again, Mr. Crump's stinky toenail had lodged its way into Melvin's pasty, freckled skin. But this time, Melvin couldn't have been happier about it. Quickly, he reached back, untied his... We don't see that happening, by the way, in this little picture. Quickly, he reached back, untied his shoes, and slipped his foot out. Then Melvin jumped out of Mr. Crump's window and slid down the flagpole with his turbo with the Turbo Toilet 2000 in hot pursuit. Oh, my back is itchy. Fortunately, Melvin's little scientist wristwatch had a built-in DNA extractor. Melvin inserted the filthy toenail into his watch and programmed a complete extraction procedure while the Turbo Toilet 2000 chased him back through town. As Melvin ran, screaming, his watch quickly pulverized and sonicated the toenail cells, removed the membrane, lipids, proteins, and RNA, and purified and isolated a single strand of Mr. Crump's DNA. When Melvin reached his bedroom laboratory, he quickly fed the results into his mecha computer, which identified the metallo-organic superpowered substance and began replicating in a saline gel solution, and gel percolated slowly as it oozed into a glass beaker. Hurry up, you dumb semi-conservative genome replicating device! Semi-conservative? Shouted Melvin as the Turbo Toilet 2000 crashed through his bedroom wall. Gotcha! Roared the loathsome laboratory. He scooped Melvin into his gigantic fist as his wet, leathery tongue slid back and forth against his pointed porcelain premolars. I love this. What is this called, chat? Pointed porcelain premolars, but it all starts with the same, letter. Alliteration. God, some people, bro. Some people. Against his pointed porcelain premolars, with one final desperate thrust, Melvin grabbed the beaker and chugged down its green, glowing contents. The Turbo Toilet 2000 popped Melvin into his mouth like a cocktail weenie and started to chew. His ferocious fangs chomped feverishly, but Melvin was tough and hard and surprisingly gristly. Then the Turbo 2000 struggled to swallow, a task that he found nearly impossible. Bro's a throat bro. With his gigantic metal fingers, he reached into his bowl and pulled out a mucus-covered little boy who surprisingly didn't have a scratch on him. The Turbo Toilet 2000 gawked at Melvin in dumbfounded astonishment. "You are so immature," said Melvin. "Sanitized for your protection." Unfortunately, the epic fight that followed was way too violent and disturbing to appear in a children's book. The images and descriptions would just be too terrifying. You'd have nightmares for weeks. Trust me. Literally me. So I have invited a guest illustrator, Timmy Swanson, age 4, to draw the actions in a style that won't depict too much graphic detail. I've also asked his Nana, Gertrude, age 71, to describe the scene in her own gentle vocabulary. Take it away, Timmy and Nana. Love? Thank you, dear. Well, thank you, dear. Well, let's see what's happening here. What? Oh my, that's horrible. It looks like a little boy is. Oh dear. What now? Now what's he doing? Oh dear me. This certainly is not appropriate at all. And now there's a robot shaped like a, well, I'd rather not say. He's just doing such dreadful things. Oh, and oh my, say, what kind of book is this? Oh, and for heaven's sake, this is ridiculous. I've never been so offended in all my, I've seen just about enough. Oh my dear. Timmy, stop drawing this instant. No, Timmy, no. And that's my rendition of a Southern grandma. The Incredibly Graphic Violence Chapter Part 1 in Flip-O-Rama. Flip-O-Rama! I've had enough of this insanity. Shame on you. Oh! It's okay, Nana. Just a few more flip pages and it's all over. I'll read it and then I'll flip. Oh, wait. Remember, flip only page 53 and 52. Be sure you can see the picture of 53 and of 50. What? You can see the picture on 53 and on page 55. If you flip quickly, it takes 2. It looks like it's animated. Ready? I want you guys to see it perfectly. Oh dear! Oh god, it keeps going. This is a kid's book. That's why it's all dirty. Oh my! Does it keep going? Oh god. Oh for goodness. Oh for goodness sakes. You don't see the guy. Right. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. Chapter 8. Everybody loves Melvin. When it was all over, the Turbo Toilet 2000 was dead and Melvin Sneedley was a hero. The mayor had a big parade in honor of Melvin. Weird Al Yankovic wrote a song about him. Even the vice president sent a letter of congratulations. Melvin Sneedley was known throughout the world as the little superpowered tattletale who saved the world. Finally, said Melvin. I'm getting the respect I deserve. Weird Al Yankovic. What a crazy throwback. Chapter 9. With great power comes a great big pain in the hiney. Melvin enjoyed being a superhero at first. It was fun stopping runaway trains, rescuing lost children, and saving people from burning buildings. Whenever anybody needed help, all they had to do was lift their heads to the sky and cry out, "Yo, Big Melvin!" And Big Melvin would drop whatever he was doing and zip to the scene and save the day. It was all good at first, until it started to get bad. You see, after a while, people started to abuse the system. They started crying out, "Yo, Big Melvin!" all the time, and it got old pretty quickly. Melvin would drop everything, throw on his cape, fly out the window, zip through the city, and arrive at the scene only to find out that it wasn't actually an emergency at all. Usually, it was just someone who had misplaced herself. Someone and then her in the same sentence. Usually, it was just someone who had misplaced there. Why can't it be there? Usually, it was just someone who had just misplaced their cell phone, or a kid who had needed help with a video game cheat code, or some guy who had just accidentally dropped his wallet in the toilet. It was a complete waste of Melvin's time, and the interruptions were beginning to drive him crazy. But the final straw came one evening as Melvin was doing a synchrotron. Synchrotron radiation experiment with his homemade oscillating field particle accelerator. 11 months of research were finally about to pay off. The clystrons and electromagnets began to accelerate. Like, is this a real word? Because this is. Began to accelerate the hadrons faster and faster through Melvin's homemade copper cyclone tubing soon. Oh, cyclone tubing. Like, if I didn't know anything, I probably would have thought like cyclone was a made-up word. I'm pretty sure this is a real word. Anyways, the clystrons and electromagnets began to accelerate and hadrons faster. The clystrons and electromagnets began to accelerate the hadrons faster and faster through Melvin's homemade copper cyclone tubing. Soon, Melvin would be the first person on Earth to definitely prove the Higgs boson's existence and solve the mystery of everything. But then, with his supersonic eardrums, Melvin heard a cry for help from across the city. Quickly, Melvin shut down his experiment, which caused the particle accelerator to overheat. The resulting explosion blew a hole in his bedroom. The resulting explosion blew a hole in his bedroom floor 40 feet deep. But Melvin didn't care. Somewhere in the city, a citizen needed his help, so he grabbed his smoldering cape from the pile of ashes that used to be his bedroom closet and flew to the scene of the emergency. When he arrived, he found a middle-aged woman screaming frantically out her apartment window, "Yo, Big Melvin, help! It's an emergency!" "What's wrong?" Melvin asked desperately. Do these pants make me look fat?" asked the lady. Now that's not funny. It's a mad Melvin. Damn, hungry by her pants. Melvin was angry. Very, very angry. Since he'd become a superhero, he had no time to do his experiments. He had no time off, no sleep, no privacy, no time for anything. At that moment, Melvin made a decision. He decided for his own sanity to quit the superhero business once and for all. But getting out was going to be a lot harder than it was getting in. Melvin needed to find a superhero to replace him, so he made up his mind to locate Captain Underpants, bring him back to Piqua, and let him deal with all the hassle of superhero dumb. Finding Captain Underpants, it turns out, wasn't as hard as Melvin had expected. Melvin knew that George and Harold were usually with Captain Underpants, and Sulu the bionic hamster was usually with George and Harold. So Melvin concluded, if I find Sulu, I should find Captain Underpants. Since Melvin had installed a GPS on Sulu's robotic endoskeleton, all Melvin had to do was run a simple scan on his computer for the GPS device. At first, the scan found nothing, so Melvin broadened his searches to include all locations and all times. Finally, Melvin's search paid off. He found Sulu's last satellite reported location down by the schoolyard 39 years in the future. That wasn't too hard, Melvin sneered. But bringing them all back to the present will be a little more complicated. Dark foreshadows. Melvin went to his garage and climbed into his glow-in-the-dark, time-traveling robo-squid suit. Quickly, the suit powered up and started slinking and slithering towards the schoolyard as Melvin began the long journey to bring George, Harold, and Captain Underpants back home where they belong. After solving some surveillance photo issues at the bank, Melvin zapped himself into the future, fetched everyone, and brought them all back 1 year earlier to the exact time and place where they had departed on their journey in our last book. Didn't read it. George, Harold, and Captain Underpants had been through a lot in the past few days, but now it was as if they had never left at all. Everything was just as it had been. The Turbo Toilet 2000 wouldn't arrive on Earth for another 2 weeks, so Melvin's future as a superhero would never become reality, and nobody was happier about that than Melvin himself. I don't have to be a superhero anymore, cried Melvin happily. I can finally follow my destiny. Please, peace and quiet at last. Peace. Oh wait, I didn't even speak into the voice. I don't have to be a superhero anymore, cried Melvin happily. I can finally follow my destiny. Peace and quiet at last. But you still haven't told us why you... George. Yeah, but you still haven't told us why you brought us back, said George. Yeah, said Harold. What gives? Oh, you'll find out, said Melvin, with the foreboding chuckle. In 2 weeks, you'll find out. Melvin unleashed a horrible, villainous laugh as his glow-in-the-dark robo-squid suit began to shake and buzz. Soon, he and his tentacle time machine disappeared into a ball of electric light. Bro time traveled. George and Harold had no choice but to take Mr. Crump's home. Pop quiz. Who the heck is Mr. Crump? Captain Underpants. They brought him to his front. Pop quiz. What's his job at the school? Answer. I almost said president. Principal. They brought him to his front door, got the key out from behind the bushes, and let him inside. Go over to the kitchen sink and splash some water on your face, said George. What voice are we gonna give him? Aye, aye, sir, said Captain Underpants. He did as he was told, and in no time at all, he was back to his grumpy old self. Aye, aye, sir. Yeah. What is that? Aussie. I wonder what's going to happen in 2 weeks, said Harold. I wonder what's going to happen in 2 weeks, said Harold, as he and George walked home. I'm sure it's no big deal, said George. If Melvin can handle it, we can handle it. Also, note the wanted pictures, their faces change. Or, Soon George and Harold were back up in the treehouse. Carefully, they placed crackers, eggs on some soft pillows under a few desk lamps. There, said George. That should keep them warm and cozy. George and Harold were dead tired. They hadn't slept in over 30 hours, and they'd been running for their lives most of the time. I thought it was going to say 30 years. Okay, whose eggs are these? Pop quiz. Are they the squids? No way. Come on, guys. They were the eggs laid by their pet pterodactyl Cracker. And they were purple and orange speckled. It's like you guys aren't even listening. I need a serious nap, said Harold. I need a serious nap, said Harold, as he settled into his beanbag chair. Me too, said George, as he collapsed into his own beanbag chair. Saving the world is exhausting. I'm still a little worried about the whole 2 weeks thing, said Harold. That sounds really bad. Relax, said George. There's nothing we can do about it now anyways. Let's try to stay out of trouble for the next 2 weeks, said Harold. If the world is going to end, I don't want to be stuck in detention the whole time. I read the wrong person. Let's try to stay out of trouble for the next 2 weeks. If the world is going to end, I don't want to be stuck in detention the whole time. Don't worry so much, said George. Besides, how much trouble could we get into in the next 2 weeks? Anyways. 11 minutes later. Flipperama! George! Harold! Get down here right now! George and Harold opened their eyes wearily. They stumbled to the treehouse. George and Harold opened their eyes wearily. They stumbled to the treehouse door and looked down. George's mom and dad and Harold's mom were all standing down in the yard looking very angry. The school called, said George's dad said. They told us that your kids weren't in class. They told us that you kids weren't in class today. Uh-oh, said George. We're dead, said Harold. Wouldn't you mind explaining what you've been doing all day? Asked Harold's mom angrily. George and Harold could hide the truth no longer. They decided to confess everything. We couldn't go to school today, said George. We had to save the earth from an evil, crazy guy who was riding around in a giant pair of robotic pants. Yeah, said Harold. We spent the last day traveling through time running from dinosaurs and teaching cavemen how to defend themselves. That's probably the last book. Very funny, shouted George's dad. If your kids think you can skip school and goof around all day, you're in for a big surprise. George and Harold had never seen their parents so angry. The two boys spent the next 5 hours mowing lawns and weeding gardens, vacuuming houses, washing cars, dusting furniture, cleaning out garages, washing fences, doing dishes, folding laundry, and taking out garbage. It was exhausting work, but it was nothing compared to what was to come next. What was to come next? George and Harold had never been so tired in all their lives. At 9:30 p.m., they gruntled good night to each other and limped into their houses like zombies. What a beautiful picture. Starry night. Would you like a snack, dear? Said Harold's mother. Harold. No, thanks, he mumbled. I don't have a voice for Harold. I've said this already, but I just don't know what to give him. He was too tired for a snack, too tired to take a bath, too tired to put his pajamas on or to take his shoes off. He didn't even have the energy to turn on his bedroom light. He just collapsed on the top of his bed and fell asleep instantly. So me when I come back from work some days. 22 seconds later, the telephone rang. It was George. Harold's mother brought the phone into his room and held it up to his ear. Harold was too tired to even say hello. He just mumbled, I just remembered something, said George, panicking. Tomorrow is test day. Harold's bloodshot eyes popped open and he sat up straight. Oh no, Harold cried. I forgot all about that. Me too, said George. We're having major tests in all our classes tomorrow. We're going to have to stay up all night long and study. I don't remember ever studying in elementary school. But to thy own self be traunt. When the sun rose the next day, George and Harold were still going through their spelling checklist. Actually, I just lied to you. I think I might have studied for spelling tests. George was almost done studying. Harold still had to read 44 pages of his natural history. Harold still had to read 44 pages of his natural history textbook. Breakfast is ready, shouted George's dad from downstairs. George stumbled down exhaustingly and tired. To smoosh. Excuse me. George stumbled down exhaustingly and tried to smosh some waffles into his mouth. He missed. Meanwhile, Harold was sitting at his breakfast table in the burned-out stupor, buttering his cereal and pouring milk on his toast. Silly rabbit. Did you get any sleep at all last night? Asked Harold's mother. Okay. Harold's answer didn't make any sense, but it was the best he could do under the circumstances. Before long, George and Harold were ready for school. They met up, as they did every school day, in George's front yard. Are you ready for all of our big tests today? Asked George droopily. Pretty good, said Harold. He was so tired he couldn't even answer a simple question from his best friend correctly. How was he going to manage a day's worth of tests? Let's get this over with, George moaned. Wait, said Harold. I want to check on Cracker's eggs before we go to school. I gotta find his voice. Like, who is he? Who is he really deep down? Oh my god, I think I've been reading the wrong voices again. Harold. No, this is Harold. I don't know. Harold wobbled to George's backyard. Sorry? My freaking hair? Harold wobbled to George's backyard and hoisted himself up the ladder to the treehouse. Hurry up, said George. Harold did not answer. Hey, shouted George. We're going to be late. Harold did not come down. George climbed up the steps and peeked into the treehouse. It was just as he had expected. Harold had fallen asleep at their desk. Hey, Harold, said George, shaking his friend's shoulder. Wake up, man. We're going to be late for our tests. Just 5 minutes, moaned Harold. I just need to sleep for 5 minutes, please. Well, okay, said George, but not a minute longer. George took his backpack off and set it against the treehouse door. Then he plopped down his beanbag chair and looked at his pocket watch. 7:53 a.m. The second hand was ticking by awfully slow. I should close my eyes for a second, said George. Just for a few seconds. That afternoon, George yawned and stretched as he rolled over his beanbag chair. He glanced at his pocket watch again. 4:41 p.m. George closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Suddenly his eyes shot up and, oh no! George screamed. Harold awoke with a jump. We fell asleep! George cried. We slept through school. We slept through our tests. We slept through everything! Oh no! Harold wailed. We're dead, man! Game over! George and Harold peeked out their treehouse window. Harold's mom was out in her garden. She was whistling a cheerful tune. Can she read? That's strange, said Harold. Why didn't the school call her and tell her we were absent? That's strange. Hair. Old. Talk about hair. You didn't have to cut me off. And it feels so wrong. Somebody that I used to know. I'm about to get demonetized for that. Okay. I'm gonna finish this and then I think we're gonna call it a day. Chapter 16. Out of 36. Half of 36, guys. Okay. Good guesses. It's gonna be embarrassing to do this in front of you guys. Oh, 18. Yeah, that was embarrassingly long. I don't know how long that was, but it was embarrassingly long. George and Harold climbed down from the treehouse and walked over to the garden. How was school today? How was school today? I already forgot the accent for the parents. How was school today? How was school today? How was school today? Asked Harold's mom. Same as always, I guess, said Harold. He really was guessing. George's mom heard them talking and came over. You didn't miss school today, did you? You didn't miss school today, did you? Asked George's mom. No, said George. Technically, George was telling the truth. He hadn't really missed school at all. Bro's on to something. Super secret test day. The next day, when George and Harold arrived at school, Mr. Crump was overjoyed to see them. He met them at the front door, shook their hand enthusiastically, and gave them big, both sweaty hugs. This can't be good, George said. You're wrong, Mr. Crump. You're wrong, said Mr. Crump. It's the best day ever. It's the day I've been waiting for since I met you two horrible people. Let's all go to my office, shall we? I've got refreshments. As they walked down the long hallway toward Mr. Crump's office, several teachers patted Mr. Crump on the back and congratulated him. The entire school staff seemed elated. We're doomed, said Harold. When they finally got to Mr. Crump's office, he plopped down in his chair and spun around a few times, giggling with glee. After a few minutes, George started to become impatient. I thought you said there were going to be refreshments, George said. Not for you, shouted Mr. Crump angrily as he slammed his fist on the desk. He opened his drawer, pulled out a warm diet soda, and popped it open. Then he leaned back in his chair and sipped loudly as he chuckled to himself. I just want to soak this moment in, he said with delight as fizzy brown phosphoric acid dribbled down his chin. You boys have really messed up this time. You boys have really messed up this time. God, I already forgot the voice I gave him. Like, come on. You're wrong. It's the best day ever. It's the day I've been waiting for. You boys have really messed up this time. You skipped school on super secret test day. Super secret test day? Said Harold. What does that mean? I thought you'd never ask, Mr. Crump said gleefully. You see, I've been looking for a way to separate you two kids for years now, but I never figured out how to do it until yesterday. Then it came to me in a flash of inspiration. Super secret test day. What's so secret about it? Asked George. You should be asking, what's super about it? Mr. Crump joyfully said Mr. Crump joyfully. Because it just might be the crowning achievement of my entire career. George and Harold looked at each other nervously. Suddenly the door opened and the school's math teacher, Miss Calculator, entered the room. She sneered down at George and Harold and poked her tongue out at them as she walked by. Childish. Here are the figures you asked for, she said, handing Mr. Crump a large manila envelope. Thanks, Anita, Mr. Crump said. He smelled the envelope like he was admiring the aroma of a gourmet meal. It's a real shame you boys missed school yesterday, Mr. Crump said. Your teachers hated to do it, but they had to give you both zeros on all your tests. But we studied really hard, said Harold. Can't we just take makeup tests? Nah, Mr. Crump said, grinning evilly from ear to ear. There will be no makeup tests. Don't worry, Harold, said George. We'll do really good on our final exams this year. Final exams in elementary school? Be serious. We can bring our grades back up. Final exams have been cancelled for this year, said Mr. Crump cheerfully. Isn't that wonderful news? You and all your classmates will get 7 more weeks of school with no homework, no quizzes, and no studying. Your grades for the whole school year have already been calculated. Oh no, said George. We're gonna flunk the 4th grade. Actually, it's worse than that, said Mr. Crump, his yellow teeth glistening in a grin so wide it seemed to stretch beyond the boundaries of his face. Normally, you wouldn't get this information until summer vacation begins, but I thought it'd be nice and I'll show you your grades early. Isn't that fun? He opened the manila envelope and slid 2 report cards toward George and Harold. Quickly, the boys opened them up and scanned through them. George's final grade for the year was 62.7%. A terrible grade to be sure, but still a passing grade. George would move to 5th grade next year. Harold, whose grades were not quite as good as George's, wasn't so lucky. Harold's final grade was 59.7%. Harold had failed. Oh no! Oh no! Harold moaned as his eyes began to fill with tears. I'm gonna flunk the 4th grade. Yeah, ain't that too bad? Said Mr. Crump, with a delighted twinkle in his eyes. He looked up at Miss Calculator and they both burst into fits of laughter. There's nothing you can do about it either, Miss Calculator sneered. You two brats will be in a different grade next year. You'll never see each other in school anymore. You'll have different teachers, different classes, and different friends. Chapter 17, The Idea. I can't believe they're going to separate us, said Harold, as the boys walked home from school that afternoon. George said nothing. He was thinking. He knew there was a way to solve this problem. I can't believe I have to spend an extra year at school, too, Harold moaned, trying not to cry. The worst part is that I actually studied. I know this stuff. I could have probably gotten straight B's if I had taken those tests yesterday. That's it, George said confidently. We can fix this now. But how? They won't let me take the makeup tests. Who said we have to take makeup tests? George replied. Let's take the real tests. What do you think they're going to do? Yeah. This tentacled arm, the time-traveling tentacled arm thing Melvin made. What do you mean? Melvin, who? What do you mean? Harold asked. Melvin said he kept his time-traveling squid thingy in his garage, right? Said George. Let's borrow it and go back in time to yesterday morning, and then we can take the tests like we were supposed to. Problem solved. No way, Harold protested. Whenever we travel around in time, bad stuff happens. What could be worse than being in different grades next year? George countered. Do you really want to spend an extra year at school? Harold didn't have an argument for that. Besides, said George, we're only going to back in time one day. How could anything bad happen in just one day? I guess you're right, said Harold. George and Harold turned around and headed over to Melvin's house. Luckily, Melvin's garage door was open. Cautiously, the two boys sneaked inside and looked around, and there, standing in the corner beside the box of Langstrom's 7-inch nollie wrenches, was the glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suit. Glow-in-the-dark. I was trying to think of that. We shouldn't be doing this, Harold whispered. We're trespassing and stealing. Hey, Melvin started this whole mess. George reminded Harold, we're just fixing it. But we're not stealing, we're just borrowing. Against his better judgment, Harold helped hoist George up into the cockpit. Suddenly, the robo-squid suit powered up and began to glow. A few moments later, the controls were all set. Okay, said George. Let's go back in time and take those dumb tests. He picked Harold up with one of his glowing tentacles, took a few steps forward, and pressed the start button. The glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suit began shaking and squattering and sputtering as it zipped backwards in time 32 hours. A blinding ball of light flashed suddenly, and George and Harold arrived bright and early yesterday morning, just in time for school. As Harold helped George climb out of the cockpit, the craziest part is, if they were to go, like, would this not have already happened? Never mind. It's a thought I can't express to you right now. As Harold helped George climb out of the cockpit, he noticed that there was now 2 glow-in-the-dark time-traveling squid suits. Hey, said Harold, how come there are 2 glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robo-squid suits? Said George. I guess that one in the corner is the one from yesterday when we went back in time and created a duplicate time machine? Oh, said Harold. Melvin should thank us. Yeah, said George. That was very thoughtful of us. I read that wrong, but hopefully you knew what I was saying. George and Harold ran back through. Said George. I guess that one in the corner is the one from yesterday. When we went back in time, we created a duplicate time machine. Oh, said Harold. Melvin should thank us. Yeah, said George. That was very thoughtful of us. George and Harold ran back through the town as fast as they could. Soon they were scrambling up the steps of Jerome Horwitz Elementary School. This feels weird, says George. I've never been so happy to go to school before. Or take tests, said Harold. And indeed, it was a happy school day for George and Harold. They took all of their tests, did pretty well on most of them, and never had to deal with anything super or secret again. At least, not until that afternoon. Our doppelgang. That afternoon, when George and Harold got home, they climbed up to the treehouse to check on the Crackers' eggs. George tried to push the door open, but something was in the way. Hey, there's a backpack blocking the door, said George. He reached in and pulled it towards him. This looks like my backpack. What's going on up there? Asked Harold, as George rummaged through the backpack. My papers, my books, my lunch from yesterday, said George. This is my backpack. It can't be, said Harold. You're wearing your backpack. George pushed the treehouse door open and looked inside. Oh no, said George. Harold climbed up next to George and looked inside the treehouse. There, sleeping at the table, was Harold himself, and next to him, sprawled out and snoring on his beanbag chair, was George. I told you something bad would happen, said George. Shh, said Harold. Shh, said George. Don't wake us up. I don't understand, Harold whispered. How come we're here? Well, it kind of makes sense, said George. We just went back in time to yesterday, right? Right, said Harold. Well, where were we yesterday? Asked George. We were right up here in the treehouse, sleeping and... Ah, I get it, said Harold. This is us, from yesterday. Yeah, said George. Remember how we accidentally created an extra robo-squid suit? Said Harold. I guess we accidentally created an extra George and Harold, too. Perfect, said Harold sarcastically. The pact. Okay, and I'm going to end you guys with the pact. I was going to make a bookmark, but you know where we're at. Thank you for watching. As I try to fix my brain rot. My absolute rot of a brain. My tea was delicious. And I think I'm gonna go to sleep. It is 11 p.m. for me. My room is cold. My hands are cold. And what more do you want from me? Oh, I'll show you something for another video that I'm gonna make. Give it a month. Just give it a month. It will probably come out sooner than a month, but just give it a month. Big things coming. Oh, let me show you that though. I think I can tell you what it is. I've said it on stream. I did it on stream, matter of fact. I did these on stream. Follow me at twitch.tv/YATCENI. Oh, let me turn the camera back on, probably. Okay. Literally in the way. There's this little guy. He's got a nose on him, a schnoz, but you can't tell. And I don't like that. Actually, I don't like that at all. What should I do? How should I make it so that you can see his nose? Maybe I just gotta add some kind of like shading to the sides. Anyways, love his eyes. And then here's the other one. He had a tail, as you can see right here. but he evolved to not need it anymore. it I dropped it and it fell. I mean, it broke. This is like clay. You see that orange? That orange is like the original clay color. So is this top orange. Not this bottom orange, but the top one is like the original clay color. Oh, or there it is. Anyways, I'm making a a blind box because I really like videos of people opening blind boxes. But the only ones that I like actually wanted to ever get are the Smisky ones or the Sony Angel ones, but I can't get behind the Sony Angels being naked on the bottom. I can't. I'm sorry. So not that. So I'm not doing that. Smiskies I really still like. I would like a one. Why not? But I also think it's just like a collection of trash. I can't. I can't collect trash. So anyways, this is my own like blind box idea. I'm gonna make a bunch of little figurines. I was thinking of making 5. These 2 took me probably like from start to finish 2 hours. But it's also like you have to wait for the clay to dry and it takes a while. So the other day I was thinking, when I painted these, I didn't paint these on stream. When I painted these off stream, I was thinking to myself that maybe I should just do like other things, like 2 of them. Like, you know how blind boxes usually have something in common? What the hell do these guys have in common? Big eyes? Weird eyes? Weird Eye Yankovic? Weird pals? Like, what should I call them? So basically, I don't know if I'm going to make the other ones out of clay, because it was a task. I won't lie to you. But, yeah. That's the next video is me making my own blind boxes. I'm going to make the box as well. And I'm going to wrap them in some sort of like opaque plastic and then into like a box. I'm just going to give you my whole idea. Please don't steal it. I'm thinking of doing cereal boxes. We haven't bought cereal, unfortunately, because I feel like cereal boxes have that nice, like, it's thin. It's not like too much to work with, and it's really like flexible. I could do whatever I want with it to make mini boxes. And then I'll decorate the cereal boxes kind of as like they were a blind box, because look at this. Like, if you look up blind boxes, some of them are really like kiddish looking, and that's not a diss. I'm just saying, like, it's easy. This shit is easy. This shit is easy. Okay, well, here's this one. This is not what I was talking about. But you see how, like, I don't know why my camera won't. Blind box won't focus. Rotofui. Okay. Gadoosh. Ooh, I'm sorry, I don't remember what that even means. It just came to mind. Okay, for some reason I can't find any of like the ones that I was thinking of. I don't know, I just looked up blind boxes the other day. And I'm shopping, give me a second. And they looked very like easy to replicate. It's gonna be a minute. So basically I'm gonna do that, and this is my idea. I love a two-parter idea, I think, because this is my idea. I do one video where I'm making everything, like I'm making the toys, I'm making the, which I might have already lost the footage of me making these because I did it on a stream, and I think that only saves for like 7 days, and it's probably been 7 days already. Yeah, one video is me like making everything and like talking about everything, and then the second video is me just being like, guys, today I'm opening these blind boxes. And the fun part is that I will not be knowing what, I know what the things are obviously, but everyone does. They're on the outside of the box, but I won't know like which box has what. So that's the fun part. And I'm thinking about doing like a secret, but I don't know how that would be possible. I'm literally making it. How is it a secret? Ooh, you know what? I could do where I make the figurine obviously, but then painting it. I'm like blindfolded. That sounds so fun. Okay. Anyways, look forward to that video by Valentine's Day. It should be out without a doubt. Anyways, bye guys. Thank you so much for spending your time watching this video.